to buy a house. But first, the Health Secretary wants to renegotiate contracts with NHS consultants to make them work weekends, and if they resist the move, he says he is prepared to impose it on them. At the moment, consultants earn an average full-time salary of £118,000 a year, and they got the right to opt out of non-emergency work at weekends. The deal was done by the Labour Health Secretary John Reid back in 2003, but now Jeremy Hunt wants any new consultants to be on 7-day working patterns, whether it's an emergency or not. In a speech this morning, he told the BMA, which represents doctors, that they are out of touch and they must get real about the importance of a 7-day service. So is there anything wrong with getting consultants to work weekends? The BMA oppose it, but are you a doctor who would be happy to work weekends? Let's speak to Dr. Tom Dolphin, who's a former chairman of the BMA Junior Doctors Committee. I understand he just qualified as a consultant anaesthetist, is that right?
That's right. I'll be taking my consultant post next week.
OK, and we're also joined by Dr. Mike Smith, trustee of the Patients Association and a former GP. So, Mike Smith, first of all, just let us see into the Health Secretary's mind here. What is he aiming at?
He's aiming at a better service for patients, as we are, the Patients Association, as indeed the College of Emergency Medicine, from what they said this morning in their press release, the King's Fund, from what they said in their press release, even the Royal College of Physicians. So there's a lot of people stacking up to support our view about what is right for the patient.
OK, and Dr. Tom Dolphin, what on earth could be the argument against working Saturday and Sunday?
Well, I mean, we completely agree that we need to have better services for patients. But the thing is that 90% of consultants are already working at weekends. We know that. And what's happening is that Jeremy Hunt is mixing up deliberately the elective work, the planned work, and the emergency care that patients need at weekends. And he's trying to make out that somehow the lack of people doing elective care at weekends, the planned care, is contributing to patients having worse outcomes from emergency admissions. It doesn't make any sense.
We want the elective care, don't we, at weekends? That's what we want.
But the service is stretched at the moment, trying to provide it across 5 days from Monday to Friday. It's just not plausible to suggest we could stretch even further and do it over 7. And it'll end up with staff and resources being taken out from the midweek in order to be able to provide it at the weekend.
I guess if you have the same resources, Mike Smith, that is what will happen, isn't it?
Well, hopefully not, because it's the lack of diagnostic services at the weekend, the x-rays and scanners and all the rest of it, which people are not getting, which presumably is one of the reasons why, if they're admitted on a Sunday, as being said, 16% of them will die, whereas on a Wednesday, people going into hospital have a much better chance of future life and health. And on a Saturday, it's almost as bad as on a Sunday. One of the reasons medically could be that consultants there, if they are there, and they're not there at weekends to do routine work, because that's what they opted out of in 1973, should be able, nevertheless, to be able to call on the appropriate, high-powered, very expensive to install technical equipment that they need in order to save lives and health. And
okay.
That's what the profession is there for.
Let me just play a clip from Jeremy Hunt, the Health Secretary, speaking on Radio 4 this morning, who's, he's thinking about this business of the fact that if you go in on a weekend, you're more likely not to come out again.
I have yet to meet a doctor who, first of all, will be happy for their own family member to be admitted to hospital on a Friday or a Saturday, but also who actually says that we don't need to solve this and have a truly 7-day NHS, because it is part of the professionalism, part of the sense of vocation of being a doctor. We really need to solve this. It was in our manifesto, and we really do want the NHS to be the safest healthcare system in the world.
So what is the answer to that, Dr. Dolphin?
The service is already providing emergency care. The contract, as well, is also already providing the service at the weekend, the emergency service that he's talking about. It needs more resources. I don't disagree with that. It needs more resources. We know that. Trying to conflate that, trying to make it the same thing as talking about elective care at weekends is just misleading. And, I mean, Dr. Smith is right. The service does need improving for emergency services. It needs more resource. We know the NHS is stressed. We know that. But trying to suggest that moving planned care to the weekend is going to help is completely wrong.
Would you do Saturday and Sunday, Tom Dolphin?
As a consultant, I will be working on Saturdays and Sundays already,
but
providing
on emergencies only, or elective care?
That is when patients need emergency care. That is when I will work.
Well, what about doing normal run-of-the-mill operations on Sunday?
Well, Jeremy Hunt actually said today, I heard him say that this is already happening in the NHS, in various hospitals, that they're providing a full 7-day service on the current contract, which really begs the question, if it can already be done, which I think it can, on the current contract, then why does it need to have a contractual change imposed in this aggressive, insulting way that he's been going about today? today.
Yeah, go on, Mike Smith.
Yeah, the College of Emergency Medicine, who look after the interests of the professions within emergency medicine, they know as well as I do that they're snowed under all the time now. One of the reasons they're saying in their press release is that we don't have this service at the weekends that would relieve them for those 2 out of 5 who don't really need the A&E technical equipment and all the rest of it, but they do need senior consultant care in order to overcome this bigger increase in morbidity and mortality. And that we've just got to get to grips with it. It's the service is there for the patient. It's not there for unions to be able to say, oh, our members really deserve better treatment than the patients do.
I'm trying to work out why there is this excess morbidity at the weekends, as you say, when the emergency care is not the issue here, where if it is the case that if you suddenly have a heart attack on a Saturday, you will get a consultant, why are more people dying at the weekend?
I think it's the lack of diagnostic services, probably, and the fact that the professionals, it's not just the doctors, but the professionals who look after these diagnostic services generally, they're also standing down at the weekend, except for emergencies, as you say. And I guess that's got to be why it is. But there we are.
Yeah. Well, Tom Dolphin, you just need a rota that says you do one weekend on, one weekend off. It's not difficult, is it?
If they need to have more doctors and more of the other professions that work in the NHS available weekends, that's fine. That can be done on the current contract. We have to be absolutely crystal clear that what the government is talking about is having more elective care, more planned care at the weekends. The emergency care, completely agree, it needs to have more resources put into it, and the whole NHS is stretched. The whole NHS needs more resources, and emergency care is part of that.
But I'm sorry to ask you the same question that I asked Mike Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Why are more people dying at the weekends because the elective care isn't there? I suspect not.
No.
Or is it because the emergency care doesn't really cover weekends either?
We don't know why people seem to have what we call an excess mortality, why these extra deaths seem to be happening weekends.
You must know.
Well, we don't know the answer. No, they have some supposition. We had some guesses, and we had some correlations.
Give us your best guess.
It could be because people don't come in during the week because they hang on and they're scared to take time off work because their jobs are insecure, and so they stay at work on Friday instead of coming into hospital. It may be that people only present at the weekend when they're really sick, so the sick patients come in at the weekend. Who knows?
Interesting. Thank you very much indeed. Fascinating from you both. Dr. Tom Dolphin, former chairman of the BMA Junior Doctors Committee, newly qualified consultant, and Dr. Mike Smith, who's trustee of the Patients Association and a former GP.